Hi all. A number of you have asked me about preparing for the test and are a little bit concerned about what am I supposed to study. So I don't put together a paper study guide because I put a lot of time into the Canvas page. And so pretty much what you need to know is there, along with a lot of resources that you can use to help you prepare. So let's take a look at what is available to you. All right, so this is the home page of Canvas. Oops, no, it's not. Okay, this is the home page of Canvas. And notice we have announcements at the top. Now, if you're looking at this on your phone, then the rest of this will appear under the modules. So if you click on modules, you will see all of this. Okay, so there's this big section, course welcome and overview. I went through that at the beginning of the semester. We can close that for right now. Helpful links throughout the semester. So one thing I want to point out is that I have old exams and quizzes here. Probably the more recent ones are going to be most similar to what I would have for your exam or your quiz because we switched books in about 2020. But all of these contain questions over the same topics. Now, I will say sometimes the cutoff for exam one happens at the end of chapter 3, sometimes at the beginning of chapter 3. So there may be some topics that are not quite the same from year to year. The ones that have these little arrows, if you click on the words, you will see what the document looks like and exactly what the paper would have appeared to students as. The nice thing about these is that there's an answer key at the back of them. I will warn you that sometimes I've needed to change around questions and haven't updated the answer key. So if it looks wrong, ask me. As people tell me, I try to update it, but I haven't necessarily made corrections to everything. Okay, so that is how we do the paper ones, but there are some that don't have the arrow. This one is in the form of a Canvas quiz, so you can actually take it like a quiz. So that's nice. You get feedback right away about how you've done. But if there's anything like, if you remember on our quiz, writing the isotope symbol, well, that's not something you can easily type in. You might have to send that in, or maybe you had to write a fill in the blank, and I might have to go back and grade those. So some of those you may not get the feedback right away, but it does give you a chance to see what the questions look like. So that's a really good way to see how I've asked questions before, and I highly recommend that as a way to study. But as far as knowing what to study for the class, if you scroll down to each of the modules, the first thing you should see is an overview for that particular chapter. Now, you can also find this on Pages. So if you go to the Pages tab, like on your phone, and scroll down to where it says overview, you can see the overview for each of the chapters. So I've got overviews for the first 3 chapters here. And the very first thing you will see is the purpose and the goals. This is your study guide. This is what I want you to do. I've highlighted the things that are most important for this class. The ones in bold are the most important of these things. So anything that is listed might be something I might ask you about, but if you have to consolidate your time, focus on the bold ones. One side will tell you sort of in teacher terms what I need you to do, just the general idea. But you might say, well, what does that mean to distinguish the domains of chemistry? So you look on the performance criteria side and it says what I'm going to ask you to do. Give me an example of a substance, such as water, and how it appears in the macroscopic domain, the microscopic domain, or the symbolic domain. So that's how I might ask that kind of a question. So that exists here for chapter 1. For chapter 2, you can see the objectives here. In here, there's also links for certain things. And in chapter 3. Now for chapter 3, we haven't done the whole chapter. So this is why I tell you where we stop and start. So if you are following in the book and know that we have to do sections 3.1 and 3.2, you can compare those objectives to what's listed here. We have talked about finding molar relationships. We have talked about computing the percent of a compound, mass, moles, and numbers of atoms, empirical formulas. But if we scroll down to the bottom, we haven't talked about solutions. So if we haven't talked about it in class, it's not going to be on the test. Okay. So in this case, the last three objectives here, not for the test. So that's the what you're interested in. The old exams and quizzes give you how I might ask that, but you may find, I don't understand. So for each of these chapters, I have some different videos. Now, these videos happen to be over solutions, so they're not going to be very helpful. But if I go back to, let's go to chapter 2. Here's some on the fundamental laws, the nucleus, that's going to help you with the isotope symbols, and the periodic table. This one, he talks very fast. So if you're watching the crash course videos, anything that has this little apple in the corner, what you might want to do.
Hello, I'm Hank Green. Welcome to Crash Course Chemistry. Today, we're talking about the most.
Is click on this little symbol down at the bottom, the settings, and you can change the playback speed from normal to super, super slow, just a little bit slow. For other videos, maybe you want to speed them up, and you can do that here as well. You can also go to YouTube and just put in the search engine the topic that you want to do. So you can put in the search engine, finding the empirical formula, and there will be lots of videos on those. So that's a good way to kind of get a background understanding. The last thing I'm going to point out is that if you go to quizzes, the first set of quizzes are ones that I'm assigning for you to do as a grade. So you'll see your prepare to learns here. But if you scroll down, there are practice quizzes. So for topics that people struggle with a lot, I try to put in some practices. Now, some of these are the old exams. So this is the exam one from fall 22. So you can use that as a practice. Here's one that's all about ions, making sure you know from the periodic table, what is the charge of the sodium? What's the charge of the fluorine? Here's one on naming polyatomic ions. Here's one on atomic structure. We'll get into balancing equations, the bold ions on your sheet. So there's a whole bunch that are relevant for this chapter. So as you go through these, you can take the quiz as many times as you want. So when I was playing around with this, I got a 7 out of 10. Sometimes that happens if you write in something that is not exactly right. Let's see. Oh, I haven't written anything in yet. So if I want to take this quiz again, if I type in, this one is permanganate. If I put permagnetate, so I spelled it wrong, it's going to count it wrong. I would probably count it as correct. So don't just look at your score, go back and look at the answers, and it will tell you what the correct answer is. And you might be able to see, oh, I just spelled it wrong or typed it in wrong. I would still count that as correct. Okay, so that's several different ways that you can prepare for your test. So I've mentioned some of these in class. I know sometimes it's a little bit hard to get an idea of how to get to those things as I'm talking about them. If you have other questions, please contact me. And remember, I have office hours on both Monday and Tuesday next week before your test. Good luck to you.